Picture this, it's the opening night of Charlotte's Web in the 2nd grade, and I'm playing Fern. I've got my overalls, I've got my boots, the only thing left that I need is her 2 iconic braids. And who's left in charge of my hair? None other than my dad, with absolutely 0 braiding skills. Now, let's just say I went on in a ponytail that night, and I don't want that to happen to any of you. So today I'm going to teach you how to do the perfect French braid. Now that just takes 3 easy steps. The first is knowing how to do a traditional braid. The second is keeping your sections even. And the third is keeping tension on your hair at all times. Now this is a skill that is super simple and you can pick up in as quickly as just 1 day, but it's a skill that can come in handy in so many different situations, whether you're braiding your teammates' hair, your daughters, your sisters, even yourself. That's why I learned how to braid, but even if you don't have long hair like mine, it's still a skill that you can use in your everyday life. The first step you need to know is learning how to do the traditional braid. Now this is super simple and a lot of you may even know how to do this already, but let me walk you through it. It is the building block of a French braid, so it's important that you know how to do it very well and you know it at heart. So let me walk you through it. You'll first split your hair into 3 sections. Now make sure that all 3 of these sections are even to each other. You can do this with a comb or you can just eyeball it, but it doesn't matter as long as all 3 sections are even. Once you have your 3 sections, you'll have your left section, your middle section, and your right section. You'll take your right section and you'll place it over the middle. Once you have those, you'll take the left section and place it over the middle. That's literally all you need to know for the traditional braid. You just repeat that over and over again. So right over middle, left over middle, right over middle, left over middle. And you just keep going till you run out of hair, tie it off at the end. That's all you need to know for the traditional braid. Once you have that mastered, the next step that you need to know is keeping your sections even. So this is so important because it really applies to the neatness of the braid. If you don't have even sections, your braid can come out very lopsided, which you don't want. Now, as long as you keep your sections even, you'll be good to go. And the key to doing this is to pay attention to how much hair you're adding to each section as you go. So you've learned right over middle, left over middle. Now we're going to add a little section of hair with each braid, with each new piece that we add in. So when you take your right over middle, you'll add a little bit of hair and go over the middle. And then the left section, you'll add a little bit of hair, go over the middle. It's the exact same as the traditional braid. Now it's just important that you take the same amount from each side so you don't end up running out of hair on one side and you still have half head hair on the other side. So now that you know how to add in your sections of hair and keep it even, the third step to the perfect braid is to make sure you keep tension on the braid at all time, which just means keeping the braid tight and not letting your pieces get loose or dropping any pieces. So the key to this is to make sure that you're holding on to all 3 pieces at all times and to never drop a section. Now I do this by holding all 3 pieces in between my fingers, which I think is the most effective way to do so. And I'll show you this right here. As you can see, when you hold it in between your fingers, you can keep it tight. And as you add sections, make sure you pull that hair tight, add it to your section, and then you can continue with your right over middle, left over middle. And the key is just as you're adding hair to keep each section very tight to the scalp, and you'll be good to go. Some people prefer looser French braids and some people prefer tighter French braids. For a neater looking braid, you're gonna wanna keep that tight braid, keep that tension, make sure that those braids are tight together. And for a looser braid, you can be a little more loose with how you're braiding, but that's only if you're going for a more messy look. And along with that, while you're adding in sections, if you want that tight, neat looking braid, adding smaller sections of hair to each piece as you go instead of taking big sections can really help with that neatness factor and making sure that it all looks put together and there's no pieces flying away, flying out of the braid. According to the Harvard Business Review, 2 of the best ways to master a skill is first knowing which way you learn best. So some people are more visual learners and some people are more hands-on learners. If you're a more visual learner, maybe watch this video back a few more times, watch it over and over until you really get a good understanding of how the French braid works. If you're more of a hands-on learner, then you can jump right into practicing this braid. Start by practicing your traditional braid, and then you can move on to adding pieces into each section of your hair and working on that French braid. Now with time, skills will always get better, and the more you practice this braid, the easier it'll get. Soon it'll be muscle memory, and you'll know it just like that. To recap, the 3 things that you need to understand to do that perfect French braid is first, mastering that traditional braid and understanding that building block to the French braid. Second is keeping all of your sections even at all times to make sure that your braid doesn't end up lopsided. And the third is to keep tension on your hair at all times to ensure neatness of the braid. Now, even if you don't have long hair like me and you don't think that you'll ever need to know how to braid, you never know when your daughter might be in a costume crisis and just might need your help.